Welcome everyone to the October 2022 meeting of the Memphis Astronomical Society. Once again, I'm your host, Jeremy Veldman, and we've got an excellent program for you guys tonight. You've heard of Stellarium, you've heard of Sky Safari, some other astronomy apps out there. This is the mother of all apps. And if you wonder where all the data goes that's collected from various institutions, observatories around the world, you're going to get some great insights tonight. So stick around. This is a presentation you're not going to want to miss. Before we get started, just a few preliminaries. So first of all, again, we're the Memphis Astronomical Society. We are a nonprofit public service organization promoting interest in education in astronomy and related sciences. The best way to engage us is on our website, memphisastro.org. We also have a Facebook group and, of course, a YouTube channel. So if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. If you want to be on our email list, just go to our website, again, memphisastro.org, and click the join button. It's in two different places in the upper right. Again, it brings up a separate form. Just fill out your details and we'll add you to our email list. And we send correspondence out regarding meetings like this or other outreach / observing events about once a week. Fairly active group, especially this time of year. So again, if you're not on our email list, just click the join button and we'd be happy to have you add you to our list and have you a part of our community. And for outreach, we also have a form for that as well. Again, we do a lot of events around town, outreach events, whether it's just observing or a combination of observing and presentation. I'll show you some examples here. But if you're interested in having our services for your group, just click again the contact button on the right side, and there's a separate drop-down menu, schedule talk and or telescopes, and you just fill out your details. The more information you can give us, the easier it'll be to gather resources and better know how to serve you. So anyway, again, if you like our services for your group for outreach, there's a form for that on our website. All right, let's just run down here. Again, October, happy fall. Nice to have some cooler weather. We got a fairly active month coming up here. It's actually already started. And I don't want to jinx it, but we've had a couple excellent weeks of weather. So we finally have caught a break weather-wise. Now, today, of course, is the 7th. We got our meeting tonight. We're getting into the brighter moon phases. However, want to remind you that next weekend, very important, we're going to be participating in the Tennessee statewide STEAM Festival. And of course, STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math. And a lot of different organizations around the state are doing different things. We're basically doing two observing events / star parties. And that'll be next Friday, the 14th, and then the following Saturday, the 15th. Now, we've had a hiatus from Shelby Farms for the last several months. Next Friday, we're going to be back there for the first half of this STEAM Festival. So that'll be next Friday, October the 14th, Shelby Farms, P5 parking area. So, and again, if you're driving due east along Walnut Grove, heading toward Cordova, all you do is you take a left on Farm Road, and then it's the first right on South Hyde Lake. You'll see the big sign there, P5 parking area. It's across from the visitor center. So we will be there next Friday, weather pending, if it's clear, for the first half of the Tennessee STEAM statewide festival. So that's October the 14th. The following night, October the 15th, we'll be at Burton's. So that's basically a dark sky event. So need lots of telescopes for this. So if you can come out next Friday and Saturday, Shelby Farms, and then the following night, Saturday the 15th at Burton's, that would be great. And we can go ahead and log West Tennessee as a participant in this event. Basically, again, we're just doing observing. So I won't be able to make this myself because I'll be out of town for fall break. But we always get a good turnout, especially for our in-town events. So yeah, come on out. Now, the weekend after that, we've got a couple things going on. Again, October the 21st, if you're in town, that's another Burton's Dark Sky Observing session. However, that weekend, the 21st and the 22nd, there is an Arkansas Dark Sky Festival at Tyler Bend Campground near St. Joe's, Arkansas. And this is the first one, to my knowledge. This is not an MAS event. So we're basically a participant in this event. And this is the first one, I think, of its kind. They've been promoting this for a couple of years. It got delayed due to the pandemic, and now it's full speed ahead. So they've asked us to be a participant. I am planning to be out there Friday night, the 21st. I'll probably come back on Saturday. I'm not sure I'll stay both nights, but certainly for one night. And not really sure what to expect, quite frankly, other than it's basically a star party / dark sky event. So this is more for promoting, the dark skies as a natural resource and heightening awareness, and then also celebrating, the natural beauty, the natural wonder of the night sky, and also heightening awareness that it needs to be preserved, especially in the growing age of light pollution and with more urban development. So anyway, if you'd like more information, you can see the website below, darkskyarkansas.org. And they sent several different, couple of different documents that we've sent out on this. I'll send this out again just to kind of refresh people. And it basically just kind of gives an overview of where it is and what the gist of it is. And if you want to take a telescope out, you can. You're basically camping for a night. I think all the facilities around there are pretty much filled up by now. There's several groups that are participating. MAS is just one of them. So as far as the location, you can see here, you're basically, north of Little Rock. If you take 40 out to Little Rock and then go north, kind of on the way to Branson. This is kind of ironic because I'll be taking this road next weekend to Branson and then repeating it again. And then Tyler Bend Campground is right here, St. Joe. So I personally am curious because I've never done any observing in this part of Arkansas. So it will be interesting to see just how dark it is. I'm sure it's going to be really good. So again, if you're interested, mark these dates, October 21, 22. That's 2 weekends from right now. Arkansas Dark Sky Festival. And then, of course, the last Friday of the month, the 28th, we're doing another event at Bobby Lanier. We had a great turnout last Friday, and that's pretty easy too, right here in town. So feel free to come out to that as well. Okay, looking back on the past month, again, we've had pretty good run here at Burton's for consecutive months of observing. Don't want to jinx it, but we did have another night here this past September. We had a good observing event at Burton's, and you can see here, pretty good turnout. We had the night vision with a 20-inch, nice Milky Way shot. So now that the weather's cooling off and we're getting some better, more favorable skies, more favorable weather, we're hoping that this trend continues. We also had, again, a great event last Friday at Bobby Lanier Park. Had 75 to 100 people come out, plus several telescopes. So that seems to be a good spot for outreach. We'll be doing that again at the end of the month, October the 28th. And U of M Space Week, that happened earlier this week, actually. Group of 5th graders came out. The subject was the moon, and our very own Bill Wepner had the opportunity to enlighten the students on Apollo versus Artemis. I gave a very brief overview of MAS to sort of heighten awareness, but we appreciate the collaboration of the University of Memphis and happy to support them in any of their efforts to promote science or space or just anything that we do as a group with outreach and telescopes and observing. So that was fun. And Steve and I had the opportunity to do the Cub Scout Pack 64. That was this past Tuesday, October the 4th. Great location, right at United Methodist Church, right here in Germantown. If you have a significant other who doesn't like astronomy, right across the street is Southern Social. So you can drop her off there. Well, we did the talk and then showed several of the brighter objects, Jupiter, Saturn, the moon through the telescope. And this was also a great event for Stellina. So that was a fun night. And they've reached out to us again, I think, for a couple more other events. So it's fun to teach the young kids and especially to hear their curiosity. The questions are just really amazing. So that was a fun activity. Yeah. And then some of you came out to Burton's or to Village Creek for the Star Party. Really tough call. We kind of blew it with the weather, but it's one of those situations where it looked promising at first, and regardless of the call you make, it's going to go the other way, right? You call it good, it's going to cloud over. If you cancel it, it would clear up and the skies would be perfect. So anyway, long story short, we had a handful of people come out, including Dr. Bill Bussler, who did the indoor program. That's about all we were able to do before we were clouded out for the observing. So if you're keeping score, Clouds 1, MAS 0, but we do have a rematch on November the 12th. So we will try again for Village Creek next month, November the 12th. So again, mark your calendars for that. We'll send out documentation, kind of make everybody aware. We always need lots of telescopes, lots of volunteers. And again, hopefully the skies will be clear and we can do this again with observing. So that will be next month, November the 12th. We'll send a reminder as we get closer. And I just want to make everybody aware of this also. Again, we'll mention it again, but next month, November the 8th, we do have another lunar eclipse coming, total lunar eclipse, just like last May and the previous November. You got to get up, you got to get up early for this one, as the partial phases begin at 3 o'clock in the morning, Memphis time. And you'll see max eclipse just before sunrise. I do plan on catching this one. It does occur before our next meeting, which is the 11th of November. So that's why I'm mentioning it now. But if you want to see a lunar eclipse, or if you've seen one before and you want to see it again, mark your calendars for November the 8th. And again, plan to get up early for this one. And you can see here, last year, Brian and I went out to Burton's to view this one. And it was pretty cool to be at a dark sky site and see the sky transform. You can view a lunar eclipse anywhere, including from your driveway, but you miss out on seeing the sky go from full moon bright, everything washed out, to being, fully eclipsed moon and stars coming out, and essentially being transformed into a dark sky site. So maybe we'll do that again this year. We'll see. All right. Okay, I want to welcome a couple of new members as well. Christine Fahey. Again, we won't call anybody out or anything like that, but we just want to verbally acknowledge you and welcome you to our society. You were approved on September the 14th, as well as Walter Manor, approved September 19th. So I just want to give, again, a digital welcome and an applause and say thank you for joining our group. We're looking forward to having you on board and being a part of our organization. And reminder, if you're a member, check out the Meteorite for updates, as well as some good articles on stuff going on this time of year. All subscribing members can get access to our newsletter. We'll send an updated link out on Slack also. This is not the correct link, but this is another way that you can engage with us. We're trying to build this up, get away from just email chains and social media. Slack is a site that we use on the board, as well as the astrophotography group. And we're trying to promote and build up a general Slack site for the rest of our community. Again, this is just an opportunity for people to communicate, collaborate, share questions, ideas, just whatever, anything. So, but again, we'll send out an updated link. This one is outdated. They're only good for about 30 days. So keep your eyes out for that. All right, Astro News, just a couple of items to mention. Again, Artemis 1 scrubbed once again. And I think it was rolled back into the VAB for the hurricane. So I'm told all is well, and we're shooting for a window sometime in November for another launch attempt. So we will see again, once a specific date is posted, we will do a live stream of this. Bill and I will do a live stream of this. And again, hopefully the third time is a charm. And yeah, Neptune, best view in 30 years from the James Webb Space Telescope. Quite an image here. And you can see a lot of details. All the gas giants have ring systems, but Neptune's was probably the least known. And you can see here a structure similar to Saturn's, where not only rings, but also shepherd moons, and they have individual names for them now. So pretty cool. Last month, we had an image of Jupiter from the James Webb. Now we've got a detailed image of Neptune. So in addition to all the things that James Webb is doing with, deep sky stuff, galaxies and cosmology, and then also exoplanets, it's doing some pretty interesting stuff right here in our solar system. So, and of course, you can see an image of Titan in the upper left and the bottom image there, the diffraction spikes from James Webb. So yeah, really neat, really great image. So, and then some of you may have heard about this as well. This is the DART, or double asteroid redirection test, an intentional collision with an asteroid moon, mimicking a large asteroid that can potentially be on a collision course with Earth. And this was basically a test to see if an orbital change is possible in case the big one comes like it did in the past to wipe out the dinosaurs. Can we preempt it and save human civilization? So this was kind of interesting, kind of an interesting test run. So you can read more about it in the article in Sky and Telescope. All right. And then lastly, I'll just mention this. Again, we are in the full throes of fall now. We have elections coming up next month. We do have a nominating committee that's reached out to several of our members to see if they're interested in serving on the board next year. All positions are in play, including president, secretary, treasurer, VP of programs, VP of observing. We do have candidates nominated for all of these areas as well. But if you're interested in running, then now is the time, and you can let one of us know or someone on the nominating committee know. Again, we have returning board members, and we have a few that are resigning as well, with a couple of positions opening up. So usually it's a vote by acclamation, but if you're interested in serving, please let us know. And the nominations will be closed at the end of next month's meeting, which is November the 11th. And then the final vote will be announced at the December meeting. So just kind of taking care of a little fall business here. Again, we have most of these positions filled already, as well as people nominated to serve. But if you're a member and you'd like to get more active and more involved, then let us know. And this would be a good time to run for a position on the board. All right, and also want to mention the next astrophotography group meeting coming up later this month in a couple of weeks. And you can see the agenda here. We will send it out via email as well. And basically, this is an informal discussion along with tutorials on anything related to astrophotography. The group has been doing a lot with image processing, PixInsight, as well as other things related to processing images and astrophotography data. Videos of our past meetings are on our YouTube channel. You can see here the last one in September has been posted. So feel free to check that out if you want to get up to speed. And Meryl's running this group now. Great resource. We've got some people who've been doing this for a long time and have incredible equipment, experience, and yeah, just know-how. So if you think you might have an interest in astrophotography, feel free to join this group. Next meeting is October the 19th, 7:00 p.m. via Zoom. And we'll post the link to our website as well. And also a reminder, there's a form on our website for astrophotography as well. So you can click that, fill out your details, and just let us know, what level you're at, what you'd like to learn, any topics of interest. It's kind of an informal discussion the way this group works. So always looking for ideas and just anything you want to discuss in general. So, okay. And with that, I'm just going to jump in to the program tonight. Very happy to have Peter K. Williams from Harvard and from the American Astronomical Society. And he is the speaker for tonight. He's going to be talking about the WorldWide Telescope. Peter is the innovation scientist of the Center for Astrophysics in the American Astronomical Society. He is also director of the AAS WorldWide Telescope project. His astrophysical research focuses on the magnetism of other stars and planets, large surveys, and the techniques of radio interferometry. As innovation scientist, his job is to make others astronomers' jobs easier. The new technologies of the 21st century present an enormous opportunity to improve all aspects of the research enterprise, but working scientists don't have the time to chase every new fad that comes out of Silicon Valley. So he tries to promote and build tools that help astronomers do their research faster and better. So if you're looking to do research or teach or just learn the craft in general more, this is a great tool and a great application to learn. So very excited to welcome tonight Peter Williams, and please help me give a warm welcome and a warm applause, and I'll go ahead and unshare my screen. And Peter, turn it over to you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I guess before I say anything else, it's always really great to see groups like yours that are out there, you know, doing lots of events and reaching out to the community. And it sounds like you're really busy groups. That's really impressive, and that's really awesome to see. I have to admit, as a professional astronomer, I'm the kind of astronomer that doesn't really know how to use an actual telescope, or at least a person-sized telescope. So I'm always hugely impressed with what folks can pull off with that. Yeah, so I'm going to tell you about this software, the AAS WorldWide Telescope program. And I think Jeremy's introduction pretty much covered the stuff that I was going to say before that. So I'll start sharing my screen, and I think the best way to start talking about WorldWide Telescope is to show you it. So let's get this going. So hopefully you can see an application booting up now. So I like to summarize WorldWide Telescope as kind of a Google Maps for the sky application. Although really that only kind of is a superficial explanation. And it's an application that really, I like to say that it showcases astronomical data, lots of different kinds of astronomical data, and it ties them together in one sort of, you know, virtual universe that you can use to explore the sky. So what I'm opening up right here is a Windows application. So you can go to worldwidetelescope.org/download and download and install this application. It's free, it's open source. Or also we have a web-based version where if you just go to worldwidetelescope.org, it will drop you into an interactive web application, which is quite similar to what you should be seeing here. Those different applications have different uses. We're actually mostly focusing on the web application just because you can use it in so many more places. You can run it on your phone, you can run a dashboard of a Tesla. You can do all sorts of amazing stuff with web browsers these days. But meanwhile, the Windows application is the kind of thing that can actually power a full planetarium, and you can use it to create planetarium shows and things. So depending on, you know, what circumstance you're in, the easiest thing to play around with WorldWide Telescope is just to go to worldwidetelescope.org, and it should run in most modern web browsers. But for some more powerful things, sometimes the Windows application is better. So to give a little bit of context, so we call AAS WorldWide Telescope, AAS being the American Astronomical Society. So that's the scholarly society for professional astronomers in North America. So we organize big meetings of professional astronomers. We run some of the major astronomy journals. And we also have projects like managing this application to help people share astronomical data. And the mission statement of the AAS is to enhance and share humanity's scientific understanding of the universe. And a tool like this that sort of helps people explore astronomy data visually, see the beauty of the cosmos, really contributes to that. So I haven't done anything with this application yet, so you might see some dots here. So like I said, we have a sort of Google Maps type interface. So if you boot it up by default, you'll see this. And if I click and drag with my mouse, I can pan around the sky, and you can see the Milky Way here. And one thing I should mention is that when I'm sharing the screen over Zoom, it will come through kind of choppy and rough. The actual application runs really smoothly. It's got some really sophisticated technology to make it really nice and clean, which is one of the things that does really nicely. But unfortunately, on Zoom, it's not going to look amazing. So this map of the sky we have here. So this is a map of the entire sky, all 4 pi steradians, which is about 1 trillion pixels of data from the digitized sky survey. So this is photographic plates that were taken all through the 20th century and scanned in. And they've been converted into a special data format. So my computer doesn't have those 1 trillion pixels of data all downloaded, but it streams them on the fly when I'm using the application. And one of the really clever pieces of technology is it has some very smart data formats. So let me download all this data instantly, or pretty close to instantly. So if I use my little scroll wheel, I can zoom way in, and it'll be like Google Maps, where you can sort of see the image approach higher and higher resolution. So here I've just chosen some random field in the galaxy. If I zoom out and try and get my bearings, if I zoom in around here in Orion, we see the Horsehead Nebula in nice shape right there. So this is what we call the sky mode of WorldWide Telescope. And as I navigate around, there's this bar at the bottom. So we have these all sky maps. And WorldWide Telescope also comes built in with a giant database of astronomical imagery. We've got something like more than 4,000 images at this point, mostly produced by observatories when they put out press releases, but also some astrophotography and sort of a variety of other things. We try and sort of bring in any image that is interesting and scientifically accurate. We want to have it in there. So if I click on one of these images, this one right here, I can pull up this image and overlay it on this map. And there's a little slider which I can use to crossfade, so I can compare this image, which I'm afraid I don't know anything about the one that I've clicked on, but this looks like, let's see if I can pull up some information. So this is actually mostly X-ray data, is what this is saying, of the Flame Nebula overlaid on this sort of photographic scan plates. And you can see I've got all sorts of images. Here's another image of the Flame Nebula. Here's a nice wider angle view of the Horsehead. And popular regions like this, we've got several pages worth of different images that people that are in the system from of the Horsehead, of Orion, and this sort of general region of the sky. So I can also compare this imagery not just to this sort of large optical sky map, but we have a big database of all sorts of really wide area maps. And overall, the WorldWide Telescope, like I mentioned before, we've translated these data in this special format that lets us download them on the fly really quickly. And overall, we've got something like 20 terabytes of data. So the next one on this list is what's called the Pan-STARRS 3 pi map. This is from the Pan-STARRS Telescope, which is a big survey in Haleakala, Hawaii. This map it's more aimed at research users, so it isn't really designed to draw out, say, the extended structure of the galaxy, but it does have really nice, it's got really deep data, really good resolution. It's called the 3 pi survey because it only covers about 3 pi steradians, or that's 3/4 of the sky. So if I scroll down far enough, you see the edge to the sky here in this particular data set, which you don't see in the DSS map. We've also got all sorts of other things. So if you want to see what the sky looks like in low frequency radio waves, here's that image. This is from a survey called the VLSS, where so what's going on here is this map is made with the Very Large Array, the array of radio telescopes in New Mexico, as seen in the movie Contact, which is it's a radio interferometer. And basically, when you make maps with an instrument like that, you get this very funky, essentially diffraction pattern or point spread function around sources. So you get these very structured spikes in the data that you see like this. That's a sort of a side effect of using one of these radio telescopes. We've got a map of dust. This is a famous paper in astronomy, SFD, Schlegel, Finkbeiner, Davis. There's a map of infrared dust emission around the sky. So the plane of the galaxy is really big there. We've got things like ultraviolet data from the GALEX mission. And so this is a law of the sky. So this is a satellite that observed in ultraviolet wavelengths, which you can't observe those from the ground. So ultraviolet data are pretty hard to come by. You need to get them from a satellite. And you can see here that the satellite clearly has this sort of hexagonal observing pattern with a lot of holes in it. And oh, that looks like Andromeda. Oh, that's nice. You don't expect to see a lot of that kind of nice structure in an ultraviolet image. So overall, we've got just a huge amount of data that you can just kind of fly around and explore and do things like load up an image and see what its contact is in different wavelengths. So for instance, if you're a professional astronomer, you might be interested in, oh, is there an X-ray source associated with this transient event that I just found? And so being able to pull up the data like this and compare on the sky is super valuable. So along with these images at the bottom that kind of track wherever I'm looking in the sky, we've also got this ribbon at the top called the Explore ribbon, which gives a different way to access the imagery sort of organized by topic. And one thing I definitely want to make a point of showing is that we've recently added a new JWST folder for images coming out of JWST. So if I click on that, I can pull up some of the imagery that's coming out. So I don't know, how about the Carina one? And I'll change the background imagery back to the optical. And so we'll slew over to that. And zoom in. And we can see this beautiful image in its context on the sky. And when the James Webb data were first released, we imported these images and we shared them online. And so I don't know what all of you felt, but actually many of my colleagues, myself included, were kind of disappointed in how NASA presented the JWST data, because they really just sort of, it took them a long time to get to showing the pictures, and then just kind of showed some pictures, but without giving any real context or sense of scale or comparison of sort of what we had before and what we have now. And in the app that we produced and put online to sort of show off the imagery, we showed off this kind of zooming in and helping people understand, this is the sky that you might see with your eyes. And all this detail from James Webb is, in this tiny little patch of the sky. And we got a lot of feedback from people saying that, understanding that context really helped them feel like they understood the imagery a lot better than they just got from NASA's presentation. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. So one thing you will see here is our James Webb collection. This here, it doesn't show some of the newest imagery. So due to some of the technical aspects of how things work, the Windows application doesn't always have the latest stuff. If you go to the web application, it'll be more up to date with, I think we've got probably twice as many images out of web right now as we've got in this version of the Windows application. So we've also got data from other telescopes. Hubble, you might have heard of, Spitzer Chandra, and then organized by other groups. We have an astrophotography section with just a couple of contributions right now. This is not sort of limited by everything that could be here. It's just what we've happened to integrate into the system. So this is sort of the main way that most people use WorldWide Telescope, is to explore the sky. But actually, there's much more than I've shown you. So this is what we call the 2D sky mode. There's also a 3D solar system mode. So if I click here, we're pulling up a 3D view of the solar system. So, all right, the default angle is a little bit odd right now. So you might be able to sort of get a sense that we're seeing some orbits of planets, and we've got some minor planets as well. So I'll turn off the asteroids for now to keep that a little bit simpler. So this is our 3D view, and this is actually a realistic, high accuracy simulation of the solar system as we see it right now. So if I click on Earth, we'll fly into Earth. And we've got a nice detailed map. And this map should be pretty much accurate for right now. And so for instance, oh, actually, it'll be 3 hours off due to an issue on my computer with the time zone. Yeah, so for instance, right now I'm in Cambridge, so I should be in nighttime. I'm not there yet because of the 3-hour error. But you know, this is around noon or earlier in the day. So yeah, if we subtract 3 hours from my computer and then 3 hours for the West Coast, that's getting close to midday. And actually, so for instance, if I zoom into Boston area here, you should see that this map is slowly drifting. And that's because the Worldwide Telescope clock is actually progressing in time. So if I go over here to the view menu, we've got the time, which is moving forward. And if I pause it, we'll stop moving because I'm pausing the Earth's motion through the solar system. So that's the level of accuracy at which this is simulating things. And so for instance, if I zoom out a little bit, I can also speed up time. So if I start making time progress a lot faster, we can start seeing the moon orbiting around the Earth and the Earth spinning rapidly. So this is time progressing at around 100,000 times faster than normal. And as you may know, there's 86,400 seconds in a day. So that means that 1 second is pretty close to a day at this rate. Or I can pause time, or I can run it backwards. If I can, so down here, instead of imagery, we have the different planets. So I can click and fly over to Saturn. So we have a nice 3D model of Saturn and its rings, nice little shadow effect. One thing that I think is super cool is we actually have a database of planetary moons. So over here, this on the left side, we call the layer manager. I can turn on moon and satellite orbits. And this whole nest is the mess of all of Saturn's moons that we know of. It might be a year or two out of date. And so if I start playing time again, you can see these guys flying around a little bit and Saturn spinning super fast. So we call this, it's labeled the 3D solar system view. So I like to say it's 4-dimensional because we also have this control over time. And it's not just a solar system. So if I'm zooming out backwards, eventually we fly out from the solar system and we can start seeing nearby stars. Go a little bit farther and we can see a rendering of the Milky Way galaxy. And this is, I think it's still true that this is the only piece of Worldwide Telescope that is an artist rendition and not actual astronomical data. Because obviously from within the Milky Way, we can't get a picture outside of it. But this is a best effort reconstruction of what the Milky Way hopefully looks like based on a combination of what other spiral galaxies look like and our measurements of the internal spiral structure. If I zoom out even farther, we eventually start seeing other galaxies, and we can see the cosmic web, the structure of all the galaxies in the universe. Now you might notice this sort of, obviously we're not seeing all the galaxies. So this is actual data from the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, which measures the structure of galaxies in the universe. And due to the way that the observing happened, we have sort of, there's this large cone of data and then 3 sort of fans, and the rest is just there aren't data there. And one thing that we find very often at Worldwide Telescope is a lot of people who are sort of new to thinking about these things are sort of surprised that, they'll see some kind of gap in the data and they'll be like, hey, we do get conspiracy theorists who like, say, look, there's some kind of space station on Neptune because, it turns out to be a pixelization effect, but people don't really appreciate that missing data, when you only see the NASA press release image where people literally go in and manually, fix up all the bad pixels. Some folks don't necessarily understand that, a real piece of data does have bad pixels that look funny or missing data, or, there's not all the galaxies are there. So these are the 2 major modes of the Windows application. There's a few others. So there's a planet mode, which focuses in on a single planet. And the main thing here is that this lets us use some sort of higher quality data sets for the planet rendering. So in particular, this mode has support for what's called DEM, or digital elevation measurements. So if I zoom in on Mars here, and I can use my control key, and we actually have elevation mapping here. So we can see the valley and Olympus Mons and all that great stuff. And we also have this for Earth as well. So you can zoom into your favorite mountain and see it that way. Or you can do it on Mars. We also have elevation imagery for the moon. It's pretty hard to come by. So I think those are the only 3 bodies that we've got it for. So for instance, here we have a library of different planet images. For instance, the New Horizons map, which again is another great example of sometimes people don't understand, like, why does this part of the map look amazing and this other part of the map doesn't? And so we have to explain, well, we shot a satellite past Pluto. You can only take a picture of one side, so there wasn't really much more we could do about that. There's also a panorama mode, which this is kind of taking advantage of Worldwide Telescope. What the software here is doing is essentially looking at really high resolution images on a sphere, and we can do that. Sorry, where's my data? We can do that from the outside of a sphere, or we can do it from the inside with a panorama. But for some reason, my Mars data aren't showing up. So let's try another one. What have I done? I've done something very strange. I have no idea what just happened there. I think did I zoom too far out? I have actually never seen this. You're witnessing something new here. I must have hit some kind of singularity in the coordinate projection. I'll just exit out and try again, because it's really nice to see these panoramas. So some of the Mars rovers are uploading literally gigapixel maps of Mars, and we've got them imported too. So hopefully, if I pull this up this time, that's a lot better. You can check out how things are doing on Mars, and because we have this high resolution imagery, you can really zoom in and pick a favorite rock and check it out. And we've also got some images of the Apollo landing sites. Most of the panoramas that we have are Mars, but there's a few other ones. So here's one from Curiosity. Once again, yeah, just the detail on these is just absolutely exquisite. Yeah, I think if you want to try and give yourself a feeling of what it might be like to be on Mars, just pull this up and make it full screen and just zoom in and explore. Although you can do even better. So I mentioned that the Windows application that I'm using here does some things that the web application doesn't. One of them, it has support for Oculus 3D VR goggles and a few other ways of getting 3D effects. So you can actually turn on Like if you have red cyan glasses, you can turn on that mode, and some of these panoramas have the information to be able to sort of perceive them in 3D as well. So that's, let's see, and the last one, yeah, there's a sandbox mode and there's a specialized Earth mode, which if you have Earth science data, you can do things like load up earthquake maps and explore them that way. Oh, I see a chat. And by the way, I'm comment from Rick. I will try and keep an eye on the chat, but I probably honestly won't do a great job of it. So if I'm missing any question that seems timely, please feel free to unmute and pipe up and say so. That'll be the best way to make sure that I don't accidentally miss anything. All right. So I think there's one other thing that I want to show you in the Windows application, which is, so up here, I've basically been sticking in this Explore mode. We have these other tabs up at the top. So one thing that I'll mention actually is there's this one called Telescope, where you can actually connect WorldWide Telescope to a physical telescope if you're running the ASCOM telescope control software. And you can do things like cause your telescope, your physical telescope, to track what you're looking at in the view and things like that. I'm not very familiar with how commonly used ASCOM is or things like that. But we've had some instructions on the website for setting up that kind of integration, if that is interesting. We also have these guided tours. And so this is part of using WorldWide Telescope for education, which is a really neat idea. So the guided tours are essentially, it's kind of like a PowerPoint presentation that you can create that navigates WorldWide Telescope's universe. So I'll try quickly showing what it's like to make one. So I'll go back to sky mode and I'll pull up, say, this Carina image. And over here in the guided tour section, so we have sort of a database of existing ones, or we can create a new one. So I'll create something called Carina, if I can type correctly. And the way this sort of mode works is it allows you to create this kind of scripted thing where we think of it as having slides that transition from one slide to another. But the key thing is that a slide can have, a slide takes a certain amount of time and it has a start camera and an end camera position. So for instance, I might create a new slide that starts out with this view. And then I'll zoom in on the imagery here. And I'll, hopefully you can see my menus here, although it's not super important if you can't. I'll set the end camera position. And so that will basically mean I have a slide which starts zoomed out, it ends in this view, and this little readout here says that it takes 10 seconds to slide between those. Then I'll add a second slide and I'll use, so if I hold down Control key and drag, I can roll the view and I can create that, and I'll set the end camera position here. And so I've basically created this little tour where if I click the play button, we'll zoom in from all the way out to the Carina view, and that will take 10 seconds. And then we'll spin a little bit to line it up with the shape of my window. And so what you can do is you can create these tours and then you can turn them into videos, post them on YouTube. You can share them online. The web version of the code can play back the tours in a sort of like web style embed. And you can do things like add text overlays, and you can even have music and narration and things like that. And so we think this is it's a really nice way to be able to say you have an image that you just want to share with people. You can create a cool view. You can give it a nice contextual view, and then you can share that online. And that's the thing that I want to talk about next a little bit more, especially since you mentioned the astrophotography group that you've got. And that's something that we're actually very interested in helping people get their own images into WorldWide Telescope and be able to share them online. So I'll exit out of the Windows application. Oh, did I hit the wrong button? Yeah. And open up my web browser. So like I said before, if you just go to worldwidetelescope.org, it will take you to this web client view, which should look extremely familiar. It's just like the Windows application in a lot of ways. One thing, so for instance, I said that it's James Webb data are more up to date. So if I click on that, we have a few more images in the folder here. We've got like the recent Tarantula Nebula image. Stuff like that will eventually make its way into the Windows client, but it takes a little bit longer for us to make the updates. So, so this default view is a lot like the Windows client. It can't do stuff like VR or whatever, but because it's running the web browser, you can do some really neat stuff. And again, the thing that we're most excited about, I think, is being able to get your own images in the WorldWide Telescope. So for instance, some of you might be familiar with astrometry.net. If you're not, so this is an absolutely incredible online service where if you just upload almost any image of the sky, it will magically figure out where it was taken, and sometimes can even sort of get some information about when it was taken, and calculate its positioning on the sky. It has a really clever algorithm where it basically looks for triangles made out of stars, and with some really clever engineering, you can sort of put that in a way where even if the image is rotated or scaled, it can figure out sort of those triangles to identify where your image came from. So, and it's just a free service where you can just upload stuff. So what I'll try to do here is, let's try this way. See if there's any interesting recent images. These ones that are here all look a little bit ratty. Okay, it's loading slowly. So yeah, so let's just click on this. So this, I have no idea. It's submitted by someone anonymous a little while ago. And these overlays show that astrometry.net has figured out where this image lands on the sky. So there's actually a built-in function called, if it gets a solution for the astrometry, you can click this little view in WorldWide Telescope button, and it will open up our web client and load up the image and overlay it with its proper positioning. So this was that image that someone submitted, and might be a little bit hard to tell because the contrast of the image against the background isn't huge here. But this image, you can load it in. If the image is online, it can be loaded up by the software, and there's some magic information that tells it how to position it on the sky, and you can actually look at the image this way. As I'm blinking back and forth, you might notice that there seems to be a little bit of a shift. Unfortunately, this DSS map has about an arcsecond scale position error in the way that the data were originally imported. And we're actively working to fix that. But a terabyte of data is a lot of data to reprocess. So if we compare it against, say, the Pan-STARRS 3Pi data, we should see that it looks much closer. So if you have your own, astrophotography image, and you get a solution, you can use astrometry.net, or if there's other tools that you use, if you can get this calibration of the spatial position on the sky, you can view it in WorldWide Telescope. And what we've built is a little tool that also helps you share it online. So if I open a tab here and go to embed.worldwidetelescope.org, this is a little application that helps you create a version of that view that you can embed in your own web page, or email a link to people, or put it on social media, or whatever. So in this particular case, we have a little thing where I just copy this link, and I happen to know that I want to go to this tab and here and paste that link. And we have a preview here of a little embedded thing that shows off this image. And if you have a web page where you can insert HTML code, the same way that you can embed a YouTube video, you can embed a magic HTML code that includes that. Or I can just open this in a new window and see that image right there. In this particular case, it's unfortunately landing it a little bit off center, but you can tweak that kind of stuff. And, I might change the background here to, if I make the background 2 mass or something, then the difference between this image and the background will be a little bit more obvious. The 2 mass map is a lot lower resolution, so it looks fuzzy at the zoom level. And we've got a lot of ideas of, we really want to lean into this because I think, being able to show off the image that you've made or create a tour and show off that tour, I think is something that, we can help people do, and it's really hard to do otherwise. So for instance, I mentioned that we showed off some of the new imagery from JWST. So I'll just type in the URL where I happen to know what this is. So this is a little application that we made to show the first batch of JWST images. So the screen image that I've shown before, and we have a nice little easy to use slider where you can fade it in and out. We've also got these social media buttons, and we put in some effort to make sure that if you give it a social media preview, it will look nice and people can see the preview of the image. And we haven't done as much with this yet as we would like. But again, if you have your own image, we can, it's possible to create something like this, give it a nice little tweet button and put it out there. We're hoping to be able to start, counting likes and counting views and making it really easy to share, either an original image, or say you have a couple of images of Karina and you make a tour that you mix them together. You could even add a narration or something like that. Be able to make a tour like that and share it. I think can be great for education, for teaching, or just for showing off something that's cool that you're excited about. See a chat. There's a question about who provides support and maintenance. So right now, WorldWide Telescope is sponsored by the American Astronomical Society. So we have a little bit of funding from the NSF and from partner organizations to keep the app running and to keep developing it. So we are always, looking. You might see in the lower right here, we've got a support WWT button. So running the servers and serving up the data does cost money. So there is that. But we have a small team of developers, and a lot of the work that you're seeing here of getting data in was done by a guy named David Weigel, who's at the US Space and Rocket Center. Really great guy who runs the planetarium there and is a real whiz with getting the data in and finding new data sets. So he's been a really great member of the community, helping keep our data fresh. And so there's, we do work always on the underlying code to add new features and keep things running well. But then there's also just, the work of finding new data sets and getting them in there. And so I'm not going to go into it here, but we actually do have a very sophisticated set of open source tools, mainly written in Python, for processing images and getting them in. So for instance, I forget the actual resolution of this Karina image, but many of these images are 50 megabyte downloads, and it doesn't work in a web browser to try and download that 50 megabytes before you can display anything. And so we have these tools that process the images, and you can really do a lot of really cool stuff with them. So actually, for instance, here is a prototype of data from a survey called DCAPS. This is a galactic plane survey from some colleagues at Harvard, made with the dark energy camera on the Blanco telescope at Cerro Tololo. So this is an enormous survey of the galactic plane here. It's got literally billions of stars. This image that we're looking at here is actually more than 1 trillion pixels that we've processed with our Python tools using the high performance computing cluster at Harvard and the tools that we've got to get them into the formats that we need. And the really amazing thing is, this is definitely a demanding use case, but if you can run the code and you have a place to upload files online, you can take images of millions, billions, trillions of pixels and get them in and share them nicely. So if I zoom in here, this will look pretty ratty for a while, but at the highest zoom level, this is just actually, once again, billions and billions and billions of stars all smushed together. This is just a really cool, amazing data set. So these data were announced to researchers a few weeks ago. There will be a public press release in a few more weeks showing off what they've done here. So this is sort of the extreme example, but I do know, so as you may have heard, the Sky and Telescope magazine now is also operated by the American Astronomical Society. There's some folks there who are building sort of as, I don't know, as their labor of love are making an enormous map of the sky in H2, I believe. And that's the kind of thing where images that are big, either in terms of the number of pixels or the angular size, just like viewing a JPEG really doesn't capture it in the same way that this interactive view is able to convey. And so if you're a person that is handy with Python or web programming, every aspect of our stack is open source. There's Python code to process data. There's actually a very nice JavaScript TypeScript toolkit for creating web applications based on the web version of WorldWide Telescope. The Windows application is all open source. And so that's sort of part of our values is making everything free and openly available. And we really want to view WorldWide Telescope as a toolkit that people can use. If the default application will hopefully meet most people's needs, but if you want to create something exciting sort of based on astronomy visualizations, we have this whole library that you can use to pick out what you need and create what you want. So actually, that reminds me, I can show an example of that. So this is an educational web application created by folks at a project called WWT Ambassadors. So this is WWT Ambassadors. They used to go to classrooms with laptops with WorldWide Telescope installed and do educational programs with WorldWide Telescope. But since the web-based version has become so powerful and there's so much remote learning, a lot of that work has shifted to being based on the web. And so this particular thing is an application that a couple of astronomers built, which is meant to teach Hubble's law. You look at different galaxies and measure their apparent size and compare that to their redshift, and we get a sense of the expansion of the universe, of the things that are farther away look smaller. If you know your cosmology, it's not quite as straightforward as that. This is actually a really interesting thing where at a certain point, as things get farther away, they don't actually look smaller due to the nature of the expansion of the universe. But for this sort of activity, that's the first approximation. So this is I think this is an incredibly slick web application put together, not by expert web developers, but just by astronomers who had a clear idea of what they wanted to do, and they're willing to get in the weeds of sort of web design and CSS and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so what else can I show you? So, well, I've hit the sort of top line of things that I wanted to show. I'm definitely really interested, for this group especially, in what we can do to help people get their own imagery in and share them, and sort of what you would like to be able to do. Again, we have some ideas that we're hoping to sort of make happen over even the next few months in terms of really being able to make it so you can have image, you can make it tweetable, you can make a little video that shows it zooming in and fading in. So again, for the James Webb launch, that app ended up getting more than 500,000 views. It was used to create some videos that got several million views. We literally got emails from people saying it was making them cry. So I think that means it's a really exciting way to be able to show images that you've created in a way that is just a lot more engaging than, here's a JPEG. So I have a few other things that I could go into, but if anyone has any questions right now, I'm definitely happy to pause for a minute and let you type them, or I can't pay attention to raised hands in the Zoom or whatever, but however you want to do that, now could be a good pause point.
Anybody have any questions for Peter? So this is a free application, correct?
Yep, so it's a community contribution from the American Astronomical Society. So, you know, it does cost money to run the servers, but it's very important to you know, both our values and for how it works, that everything is free. All those 20 terabytes of data, source code, and everything. So, you know, if people use it a lot, we certainly are happy to get support. We have a donation link, but yeah, it's always going to be free. That's a really important part of it.
Now, just to clarify, this is an oversimplification, but essentially what I said earlier, I want to make sure this is accurate. You're gathering data from all the observatories, telescopes, even individual astrophotographers. You're kind of putting it in one place and making it available as a tool for essentially anyone.
Yeah, and that's you know, there's at the stage of astronomy that we're in, you know, there's more data being created than we could ever actually assimilate all of it, but we want to bring in as much as we can. And you know, one thing, you know, as a professional, I might use DS9 to view a FITS file and understand it. And you know, for examining a single piece of data, there's applications that are more specialized that you know are better for that. But what you can do here that you really can't do anywhere else is combine images from all sorts of different sources. And I didn't even show this, but if you're a professional, we can load up data tables and you can plot catalogs and do things like that. So yeah, that's what I think is the most exciting thing is you know, if there's Google Maps for the sky is kind of the first order thing you can do, that's more like GIS for the sky, of combining all these different forms of information based unified on their spatial alignment. All right, so I see a question in the chat. When we put our photos in, do other people have access to the photos we do not share with? So yeah, so right now, the way that it works is we don't have any extra privacy controls. So if you upload something, it's kind of a security through obscurity thing, where if you put it at a certain location, the only people who can find it are people who know what that location is. We don't sort of automatically list stuff. So right now, if you have, say, an image that you want to, you know, keep restricted viewing, it's a matter of having a special link and only certain people get to see that link. As we, you know, build out the idea of people uploading their own data more, it's definitely interesting to us to, you know, we want to think more about what kinds of access controls we can put in. But that's where we're at right now. So the way that all these, you know, all the data that are coming through regular web servers with all the sorts of tools of access control that the web has. So, you know, we can build on all those existing things to be able to provide access controls with logging in and things like that. But right now, things are easiest if the data just flow through. So that the default mode is if you have the right link, then the data will show up.
And again, if you have an image as an astrophotographer that you want to upload and contribute to WWT, you just go to that embed link that you showed earlier.
Yeah, so this is the way to create sort of a viewer that you can share with other people. I mean, it's not even, you know, it doesn't take any action on our part. You can just use the system and create your own viewer that you can share to actually contribute something so that it appears in our main views. Is, you know, you'd email wwt@aas.org. That's our sort of general email address. And yeah, we essentially have a database of our core corpus of images that we update regularly with new content. So for instance, whenever there's something new from JWST, we get it in there, we add it to our database. But a nice thing about the system that is actually really cleverly designed is that, you know, you can add things to it without having to go through that central database. You can pull in data from anywhere without asking permission from us. And I should mention, normally I start off by saying that, so a worldwide telescope has been around for more than 10, 12 years at this point. It started out as a Microsoft research product, started out as an application, and eventually they open sourced it and the AAS took over. But even, back in 2010 or so, they had this web-based application started, and they were actually very, very foresightful in how they designed it, even when the sort of web technology that powers it now wasn't really existing yet. I see a question from Anne about what internet speeds are recommended for it to run smoothly. I guess I don't have a specific number. If you have a cell phone on 3G, 4G service, can usually run it pretty well. Probably something, let's just say, 20 megabit connection is probably enough to run okay. The faster, the better. But one of the nice things about the design is that you can actually get away without having to have a really huge connection. And the Windows application also has a cache where it stores everything that it downloads. And once you've sort of used it a little bit, it isn't re-downloading everything all the time. There's actually, they almost got to run Worldwide Telescope on the space station where there's no internet at all. You can actually download the imagery and then sort of save that to a disk. And they were going to transfer it to a special computer that was going to launch. Unfortunately, it didn't end up happening, but you can use Worldwide Telescope even somewhere where you have no internet, like an inflatable planetarium in Namibia. You just have to preload the data first.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about planetariums and what you've seen just in general around the grapevine for planetariums using this program for public shows and demonstrations and things like that.
Yeah, so one of the use cases that we see a lot is like portable planetariums and smaller, informal ones where if you have an inflatable planetarium and like a laptop with, you get a projector with a spherical mirror, Worldwide Telescope supports that well, and because it's free and easy to install and use, it's popular for that. It has powered, $1 million planetariums like Adler and other ones. To be honest, that's not something we want to support that as much as we can. It's just really hard to support because every planetarium has their own special hardware, and nowadays a planetarium digital system is usually a network of half a dozen computers with multiple GPUs and very specialized outputs. So it's actually a lot of software engineering effort to support that. And unfortunately, we just don't have the resources to really do that super well. But one thing that's really exciting is there's a different piece of software called OpenSpace, which is funded by NASA. And they're out of the American Museum of Natural History in New York, they've got the Hayden Planetarium, which is fantastic. And they have been able to really push on that. And we've got a really cool integration where you can essentially, what's actually happening is that web form of Worldwide Telescope is being embedded in the in the OpenSpace software. And one of the beauties of the web technology is you can do stuff like that. And we sort of hoped that it would work, and they just did it, and it worked fine. So now you can actually run Worldwide Telescope inside OpenSpace, and they're better at some of the 3D stuff. We're better at some of the 2D stuff. So I'll even, I'll see if I can pull up an image because it was just really cool. My colleague Jackie posted some images from this combination recently. Yeah. So if you can see, this is a shot from inside the Hayden Planetarium. They're running OpenSpace primarily with this 3D model of JWST, and they have these windows, which are WWT, showing some of the imagery there. So from a technical standpoint, I'm super excited about this because it was really something that we put a lot of effort into making this kind of thing possible, and it's working really well. Yeah, OpenSpace is just doing a lot of really great stuff right now. And they're getting like millions of dollars from NASA, which we are not. So they're just able to support that stuff a lot better. So yeah, this is really cool to see, and I think it's a really exciting thing. But yeah, for the other thing, yeah, but if you have a portable planetarium or sort of more informal thing, WorldWide Telescope is pretty easy to set up. It supports those kinds of use cases pretty well. It's kind of the more formal planetariums with, it turns out they all have their own specialized hardware and setup, and we work with those the best we can, but it can be a little bit challenging.
Anybody else has any other questions, feel free to either enter them in the chat or
So
just,
I got to using this when it first came out from Microsoft over a decade ago, and after a number of years, it seemed to have gone stale, offline, kind of disappeared. And I got to say, my hat is off to the AAS for picking this up and not just continuing it, but really moving it forward. Congratulations, this is well done.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, in that transition phase when Microsoft open sourced it, essentially they decided they, didn't want to support it anymore, and it was a rough transition. It, took a little while to get things organized, but yeah, I'm really happy with how the project has been going, and the main thing is, we're essentially taking advantage of billions of dollars of investment from Silicon Valley in web browser stuff. You can do VR in web browsers. You can do accelerated 3D graphics in web browsers now. You can do all sorts of amazing things. And all that progress that we're sort of latching onto allows us to do things in the web version, which I'm really excited about. And combining that with sort of how we, when WorldWide Telescope started, actually had sort of a primitive kind of social media sort of approach, but it was primitive. And we as a society have sort of, we know what Instagram is like now. And I think if we can just sort of build a little bit more to really integrate the ways to share imagery and data that we have with those kinds of styles, I think it's been really cool.
When it first came out, it was a hoss of a download. I mean, it was a big memory hog. And of course, I don't think the web version was available when I first started using it. It was strictly the application. And that was tough, but it was nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's right now the Windows application is about 100 megabyte download, which, I remember a time when I remember I had a hard drive that was 100 megabytes. But nowadays we do coast by a lot on Moore's law.
Yeah.
Is there anything else anyone wants to see? I can check out Mars or the moon more, or
curious to know what you got on Neptune.
All right, yeah, let's see. I don't think we have, I think our Neptune map is I think we only have one, and it's pretty old. This is one of the ones that I think we get people emailing us about hexagonal structures. Actually, off the top of my head, I don't know the origin of this map, but yeah, so this is our Neptune, our view of Neptune, not super featureful. Yeah, but I should be able to turn on the moons and should at least be able to see some of that.
It's better than what I can do with my telescope.
Yes, this is the kind of thing where it can totally happen that people publish new maps of planets or other large sky surveys, and we do our best to stay on top of what's coming out, but sometimes we just miss new things, and we want to get as much in as we can, but sometimes it takes us a little while. All right, I see a question in the chat which I am not qualified to answer.
What about I think the question was in regards to, can you show a view of Saturn and its rings?
Yeah, so in our planet mode here, this is where we focus in on, oh yeah, so this mode doesn't actually have the rings. So if I go to the solar system mode, I'll double click on Saturn to speed right to it. I'll turn off the moons because they get a little distracting. Yeah, you know, I can line it up. So we've got Orion in the background there. Yeah, and as you may know, the gas giants actually rotate quite quickly. So we don't need to speed time up very much in order to be able to see Saturn spinning. So you might notice here, like Saturn's rings on the right side should be in shadow with the way that the sun is positioned right now, they're not. And sometimes it shows up that way, but you know, you have to write specialized code to make there be a shadow. That's the difficulty of software like this. And the amazing thing about WorldWide Telescope is lots and lots and lots of all those little fiddly bits are done well. I don't know why it's not showing up this way right now. But
you get the hexagonal spot or the hexagonal storm in the North Polar region too.
Yep, you should be able to see that there.
Wow. Can you go to Titan, one of Saturn's moons?
I think so. No, we've only got we have it. Well, actually, okay, let me. I think if I do this right, I should be able to. So I think I'm pointing at Titan right now, but I think I'm not zoomed in enough to actually be able to see it. Yeah, we do have. If I can click correctly. So like I can zoom in on some of the Galilean satellites. Where yeah, so one of the recent updates we had in the past year was expanding our collection of planetary maps. So this one will be an older map, but if I go to planets, moons, there's just some really amazing. So that's a good one. Here's Mimas from Cassini. Tethys is the Death Star looking one.
Huh.
Actually, this might be a better Tethys map. Dione is the one where this is what it actually looks like. Just one side of it is sooty and black, and the other side is basically reflective ice.
Wow.
So it's just got this totally incredible appearance. So here's one of our Titan maps. This looks like it's going to be, it might be not as high resolution as we'd like. What else looks good? Oh yeah, so we've got Ceres. Or how about Bennu? So here, this is whenever we show a planet like this, we map it to a sphere. So Bennu, being an asteroid, is actually potato shaped. So the sphere part is quite misleading. But this does give a sense of what the surface looks like. And if you were looking at some of the imagery from the DART mission, that asteroid impactor that was mentioned earlier, it also looks very similar, where you just have these rubble piles. So yeah, this zoom out view is not realistic because it's not shaped like a sphere. That's a limitation of the rendering. But if you zoom in and look at the map and don't worry about that, this is the surface of an asteroid.
Wow. I mean, you're looking at boulders on an asteroid and almost individual sand grains on Mars.
Yeah.
Detail is stunning.
Yeah, I don't know the size scale for this. For our best moon map, I believe the resolution is a couple of meters. Yeah, that's a Selene Kaguya map. So which I mean, it's pretty incredible that it looks like such fine detail. And then, you know, it's still stuff that's quite large.
Yeah.
And you're missing a lot. But on the other hand, you know, meter resolution of a body that's thousands or millions of miles away is pretty cool.
Can you show the moon landing sites on the moon?
Do we have, so I don't think we have them sort of loaded as geographic information here. We do have them, we do have the Apollo sites as panoramas, so you
Right.
can see them that way. But yeah, so that's the kind of thing where it's pretty easy. And I should mention, so we have a website called docs.worldwidetelescope.org. That's our documentation. And that has things like the data guide, which has information about how to, you know, get different data sets into. And so like loading a map of the moon landing sites would be a pretty straightforward thing to do. Yeah, so there's these crater databases, for instance, and you can load them up and see sort of overlays of all the officially recognized craters, which for the moon, I think number in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions.
So you get specific crater data for the moon.
Yeah. And we also have, like, we do have a database of Mars geographical features. It might be slow to load up, but I pull up in the Mars section and then Mars named features. And, you know, do you want to see domed mountains? How about Hecate's Tholus? Well, actually, this is going to be the wrong. That's it. Or, ooh, nice little, I think you might call that a rill. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, for Mars, we actually have a built-in database of some of the named features. I don't know if there's something in the moon that would be equivalent that we can load up, probably somewhere. All right.
And then my last question would be Earth orbiting satellites.
Yeah. Let me pull up the solar system and let's turn on the ISS. And it might, so this, we have this ISS 3D model built in, which I think it's like 100 megabyte download. So it might take me a little while to fetch it and have it pop up here. So we have a lot of support for overlaying satellite trajectories. There's built-in support, there we are, for the ISS in particular, and it updates the trajectory from Celestrack or whatever it is. And so, like, you know, we always have an up-to-date orbit for this. You can do things like import the orbits of other satellites if you have their TLEs and render them as those sort of ellipses. And you can even associate 3D models with them, like this little ISS model, or not so little ISS model. Yeah, so it's for creating complex views or just sort of understanding where satellites are. It's got nice support for that. I don't know if we have other satellite orbits built in. Oops. But yeah, there's, I think if I right click here and we have this interface that lets you import things like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's especially the Windows version of the program just has oodles of features that are hidden away in some of these menus for oh, this is the web application, that's why it has fewer features. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff for 3D views, for VR goggles, for overlaying all sorts of orbits and geographical data. There's all sorts of stuff in there. You can export views of cities as 3D models that you can 3D print.
Wow. That level of detail.
Yeah. It's the original creation at Microsoft. We're definitely just building on everything that was done there. There's some really impressive work there. All right. Okay, it's going to be about time where I should probably return to my family. So I'll stop sharing my screen here.
Well, thank you very much, Peter. I could go all night asking questions, but that was a very detailed demonstration. Again, I can't wait to try it out myself. So
yeah, I'll just type the URL into the chat here. Hopefully it's easy to remember. Also, type in, so if you want to stay informed and learn more, that URL should give you a little bit of information about our social media. We have a newsletter, which is quite occasional. Yeah, sort of, if you want to stay informed, the thing that we recommend is signing up for the newsletter, and you can click around on the website there. And yeah, I mean, you can try it right now in the web browser. If you're running Windows and you want to try that, it should be pretty easy to download and install there. And yeah, once again, if any of you astrophotographers are interested in this sort of ways that you can share your imagery in a way like this, we definitely want to help with that. So I'll give my email address too, and you can reach out to me, and we can talk about that.
excellent. And the URL he put in there, we'll go ahead and send this out too, is worldwidetelescope.org/connect. So we'll say /connect. And P. Williams at cfa.harvard.edu. And wwt at aas.org. So yeah, we'll make sure that we get those resources as well. So, well, again, Peter, thank you very much for your time. This is a great demonstration. Again, can't wait to try it out. And
yeah, and once again, it's always great hearing about the kinds of stuff that groups like yours are doing, and always happy to talk about what we're doing. So thanks for having me, and hopefully I'll be talking to you later.
excellent. Thanks, Peter.
All right, I'm going to sign off now.
Sounds good. Thanks, Peter. Have a great night.
Thank you very much, sir.
Everybody stay on for just a second. I'll go ahead and wrap the meeting up here. Okay, again, our details, of course, our website, and stay active on our Facebook group. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And want to remind everyone, next month, November the 11th, sorry, Veterans Day, we're going to be at Rhodes College. So we're back to in-person meetings, 7:00 p.m. Again, we'll send notices out about this, but yeah, we are planning to meet at Rhodes College. Ann and her group over there has volunteered to support us. So we're very grateful for that and looking forward to seeing everybody in person again. That will be the second Friday, not the first Friday, but the second Friday in November. Again, Veterans Day. So that's next month. And with that, I think that's about all we have. It's getting on about 8:30, 9 o'clock here. Does anybody have any other comments, questions, anything that we missed?
Rick, quick question for you. Are the annual dues still $25, or has that changed?
No change. That's what they are.
Okay.
I gotta pay my dues too. All right, anyone else? If not, we will go ahead and wrap up for tonight. Again, remember everybody, next weekend, the 14th and the 15th of October, is our Tennessee STEAM Star Party Festival, basically observing site or observing sessions. So plan on participating in that. If you're not on our email list already, go to the website, memphisastro.org, and join. And with that, we got a busy month coming up, a lot of stuff, almost every weekend in October. So we got a lot going on. But with that, I will wrap up here. Again, thanks everybody for participating, and have a great night. And we'll see you guys next month.
Thank you. This was
Thank
awesome.
you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.